What's up, guys? Doug Polk here, and welcome back to the Doug Polk podcast. It's good to see you guys back. We're finally getting things rolling again now that WSP's died down. We're focusing back over on some of the cryptocurrency stuff, including the podcast. And I'm really excited for what we got coming up, guys, because we have a bunch of guests coming up over the next few weeks. Should be a good one. You guys should definitely stay tuned. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're going to be back on next Tuesday with Safadine. He's a Bitcoin expert. This guy is someone that really knows his stuff. But today we have a very special guest, someone that I wanted to have on the channel for a long time, one of the most consistent and knowledgeable YouTubers in the space of cryptocurrency. And, well, maybe that should be more of a compliment than it is, but it's certainly true. So I want to welcome to the channel, Ivan on Tech, man. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dog. Thank you so much, guys. And amazing to be here. Amazing to be here, Dog. You're the comedy king of cryptocurrencies and really skyrocketed with your channel last year. So it's been amazing to follow your growth. And I'm happy to be here, happy to share my knowledge, my insights, and also learn something from you.
Awesome, man. Well, it's good. It's good to have you here. And that's actually, let's go ahead and jump in and just talk about YouTube for a little bit, because we got a bunch of stuff people want to talk about. Obviously, there's always the classic, like, let's get some cheap hot alts going. People love the cheap hot alts. But I think that one of the things I like to discuss with YouTubers is kind of what their experience has been like, what kind of content they like to make. So let's just kind of kick it off with that. What's your favorite type of content that you like to put out here on the platform?
Yeah, so originally my channel was a only programming channel. I only did programming. I showed how to program things in C++, Java. If you go back to the start of my channel, you can really see all of these really nerdy and really deep programming videos. But then, I suddenly realized that there is a niche in the crypto markets and in the blockchain space for programming content, for technology content. So this is how my channel really started to grow, because I worked at that time at Ericsson. You might remember Ericsson, Sony Ericsson phones back in the days. So it's a Swedish company. I did programming there for 3 years, and I realized that, programmers that are way older than I am, have way more experience than I have, wonder about crypto and wonder about blockchain, and I can teach them so much. And so when I realized that I have a lot to teach, I have a lot to share with the world when it comes to programming on the blockchain and explaining how blockchain projects work, that is when I started focusing more on tech blockchain on YouTube. That being said, my channel has really evolved through the year, because I started almost 1.5 years ago. And now I do both technology. I also cover the news, because you realize that cryptocurrencies and blockchain is so much more than only technology. And so I find it very interesting to cover the news as well. So my channel now is a mix of, technological videos explaining how different projects work, what sidechains are, how Ethereum works, how EOS works, all of that, differences between different projects, but also just covering what is going on, because I find it so exciting. I started with technology, then I discovered economy, then I discovered politics, and I just love it. I love the entire space.
Well, there's certainly a lot happening all the time. That's for sure. I guess that kind of leads me into my next question then, which would be, it's unique to come from sort of the programming side of things. If you talk to other developers, they'll say it's not. But I think when you look at how many people are involved in the cryptocurrency space, it mainly comes from people from the speculation and investment side, in terms of proportion of the community, and way less from the programming side. So what do you feel as far as the way that these valuations have fluctuated relative to the actual underlying technology? Do you feel like the cream has sort of risen to the top in a sense, or do you feel like marketing plays, I know it plays a big role, but do you feel it plays way too much of a role? What's your take on sort of the coins that are biggest today and their relation to the underlying technology?
Yeah, so I totally agree with you that many people get into the crypto space because of speculation. They buy something, they don't know what they bought, now they're interested in learning, and then they discover the technology and the higher meaning and what this technology can really achieve. And this is how many people start. For me, it was more, I was fascinated by the fact that you do not have a central server with Bitcoin. I learned about Bitcoin in high school, and I was very curious, how can it work? Because in my mind, I was programming since I was 9. So in my mind, at that time, I couldn't understand how can this ever work. So my path was a bit special. I didn't get into because of speculation. I was just curious how it worked. But then of course, I got also in because of speculation. That also prolonged my interest, because not only is it exciting technology, we're also making money. So I think it's just natural that people get in because of speculation, and then they discover other aspects of it. And this is how many people's paths look like. Regarding what was your second question? I didn't really understand. You talked about top coins and the technology.
Yeah, so my question was that when we look at a lot of the larger market cap coins, do you feel like the better projects from a tech standpoint have risen to the top, or do you feel like there's less correlation there than there maybe should be? And if you feel like you're not
Yeah.
qualified, if you don't know, then that's fine too.
Yeah, so definitely best project doesn't always win, and best technology doesn't always win either. It's like VHS and Betamax back in the days. It's all about marketing in my view, and all about network effect. And I think that also defines the quality of technology, because the more network effect you have, the better developers you attract. That being said, I think there's a lot of innovation happening currently, and a lot of rivals to, for example, Ethereum trying to enter the field, such as EOS, which we've seen during the summer, also Cardano in the future when they have developed their computational layer more. And so it's going to be interesting to see if and also something to realize is that you cannot really compare them. It's not that, Ethereum is better than EOS or EOS is better than Ethereum. They're all different ideological and technical solutions. So I don't think you can say, that is better than the other project. They're all different and for different use cases, which we might talk more about in going forward. But to answer your question, I do not think that the best technology is at the top of CoinMarketCap, because it's all about network effect and it's more about marketing, and best technology doesn't always win.
Certainly true. And I think when you look at Bitcoin specifically, Bitcoin has been around the longest. Bitcoin is tried and true. But obviously, as Bitcoin continues to make advancements, we have seen like the Lightning Network really drive down the cost of transactions and increase speed. Generally speaking, if you start newer, well, you have all of these other projects you can see, all these failed projects that you can see what worked, what didn't work, all the ones that succeeded. And so you have a better idea of what you can implement, with your project than the ones that failed. So I think, like, as you learn from other projects around you, we're going to continue to see the tech improve. Do you think that long run, and I mean, no one really knows the answer to this question, but do you see Bitcoin continuing to dominate in the way that it always has? Because I think that that's a question that a lot of people are sort of divided on within the cryptocurrency community. You've got the Bitcoin maximalists who are like, Bitcoin is the way, like everything. There are no other coins. There's just Bitcoin, guys. Yeah. And then you have the altcoiners. You've got all kinds of people in the community. But what role do you see as far as Bitcoin specifically moving forward?
I think Bitcoin is here to stay. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist in no way. I think there are many interesting projects and many different approaches. However, Bitcoin is here to stay at the top for a very long time, if not for forever almost. And the reason is because the big money that is entering the field, the institutional investors, they will not invest in some kind of exotic coin, so to speak. If you express yourself politically correct, exotic coins, they will not buy them. They will buy Bitcoin first. Also, the same is with Ethereum. In many cases, I think Ethereum also has established itself as the number 2 currency. And also, if you just look at the transactions, how much people are transacting, Ethereum is because of the whole ICO hype and because of the fact that so many people received Ethereum because they did an ICO and now they bought other services using their Ethereum from their ICO. So you see a much more stronger network effect with Ethereum when it comes to actually doing transactions and buying things and transacting on the more commercial level. This is something that has stagnated in Bitcoin. And because you see so many projects trying to do ICOs and trying to invent something in cryptocurrency, receiving Ether, I think that Ethereum is also here to stay. But when it comes to big money that will enter the field, and also with the ETFs coming up, who knows whether they will be approved or not, especially the CBOE one, I think this amount of money that is institutional, it will go to Bitcoin and not to other coins.
Well, I might make a couple counterpoints on why I feel Ethereum is different. And first off, it wasn't that long ago, man, where Ripple was ahead of Ethereum in terms of total market cap. That was what, like 6-7 months ago. Bitcoin has legitimately never not been number 1, and so I do think that that's a little bit different, at least maybe even psychologically, or in terms of its dominance for how long. Over the entire length of time for cryptocurrency, Bitcoin's been number 1, and we're back up to something in the vicinity of 48% dominance, which is, it's been rallying somewhat substantially, at least compared to the alts in recent times. Other reason why I think that Ethereum is a bit different is that you can't really compete with Bitcoin. Because how are you going to say, guys, we're like Bitcoin. It's like, no, you're not, because Bitcoin's properties are that it's a store of value. You can't really compete on that front. You can't really compete. It's about network effect. It's about believing in the long-term value of it. Whereas you can compete with Ethereum because you can try and create a better, a better platform for dApps. You can that's how you can compete with them on that front. What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are the following, that yes, you can try to create a better platform for dApps, and that is what we've seen with, for example, EOS and Cardano coming up, Tron, and all other ones. So there are definitely competitors to Ethereum. But as I mentioned in the introduction, they are structured differently, and that is why I wouldn't compare them. EOS and Ethereum are two different platforms, and I wouldn't even place them in the same category. And in the future, I think it's all about the use case. So for example, if we look more closely on Ethereum versus EOS, EOS makes certain trade-offs in order to boost scalability. So they have 21 block producers, they have their arbitration, they have made trade-offs that make them less decentralized. Ethereum, on the other hand, and if you listen to Vitalik, he wants to be 100% decentralized. He wants that, if you have a laptop, you should be able to mine Ethereum. So you see, there are two different ideological projects and two different strategies. And so does everything in the world need to be as secure as possible? Do all transactions need to be on Ethereum? And I'm talking about dApps. I'm talking about transactions in dApps, when you have smart contracts, when you have all of these decentralized applications being online. Do all of them need to be 100% secure on Ethereum? Probably not. And therefore, you will have some use cases for Ethereum, some use cases for EOS, and who knows how this space will develop? Because even on Ethereum, you see, for example, sidechains being developed. And sidechains also being this technology where you basically make a trade-off between scalability and security. So in that sense, I think both Ethereum and EOS will be used for different things, maybe even in the same project. You might have a project where you have a central server for some things, then you have maybe let's imagine that you and I were building a game. We're building a huge game together. Obviously, we cannot just put World of Warcraft on EOS or on Ethereum. That would never work. So we might have some logic on our central server. Then we might have, for example, in-game currency on Ethereum. Then we might have items on EOS. So I think the future is that blockchain platforms will be used together, and not that you have EOS versus Ethereum. Also talking about Ripple, Ripple is a very special case. I wouldn't include Ripple when you're talking about, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all of the common cryptocurrencies. Ripple is a very special case, and talking about Ripple, yes, they might very well surpass Bitcoin, just because they have this specific use case for the banking infrastructure, and I would see Ripple more as a software provider, a very good software provider for banks, and I wouldn't compare them to Bitcoin or Ethereum at all, although they count as cryptocurrency nonetheless, but they are very different, and I wouldn't include them in the normal cryptocurrency squad.
It sounds like every cryptocurrency that you're saying is beautiful in its own way, and you can't compare them because they're all unique. Is that what we're saying here at the top?
Yeah, that is what you usually, that is how I reason. When people, for example, ask me, what is better, Ethereum or EOS? I think they're just different. They're different for different use cases. And talking about exactly how the market will play and how developers are going to adopt different technologies today is very hard. At the current moment, the way I see the world is that you use them together. And you basically have a use case for Ethereum and you have a use case for EOS. I mean, one of the biggest cons with Ethereum is that you need to pay for every transaction. As soon as you need to do something, you get MetaMask up, you have this pop-up where you need to confirm transaction, and you also need to pay gas. Who wants to do that when using a website? So I don't think Ethereum in its current form will be used for example, decentralized websites. But Ethereum could be used for professional use cases. So for example, if you are professional, you are employed by some corporation, and you really want to do very, very high security dApp transactions, well, Ethereum might be good for you because it's just part of your work to do these transactions, and you don't care if you get an extra pop-up and that the user experience is worse for you. So I think it's all about trade-offs, and I think it's just different use cases.
That's a great point as well. And I've heard, sort of taking that and applying to a subject that I know a lot more about. I see a lot of people that have been launching various poker projects on the Ethereum network. And one thing that I always ask them is, how expensive is it going to be to play? and it ends up being ridiculously expensive because of the amount of gas that's required for people for these transactions to take place. And so I've yet to really see good solutions on that front. I think in general, though, most of them think that Ethereum will advance to a point where those prices will drop significantly. I think that there's hope for that to happen at some point in the future. But the price of gas definitely plays a roadblock to to the use of Ethereum for apps such as poker.
I agree with you. A few weeks ago, we launched a coin on our channel just for fun. We launched a coin called Smashy Smash on Ethereum, an ERC20 token. And I started to send out that token to people in the chat just for fun also. But quickly you realize it costs quite a bit of money to just give out for free. And that is the thing. It might be okay if you have a specific business use case where you need very high security dApp transactions. But for normal everyday users, maybe not. Maybe you will have side chains on Ethereum that are more popular for everyday transactions, or EOS or something else.
Yeah, actually, I debated doing the exact same thing. I had one of my friends who's a programmer develop a coin called Binks Coin. It's going to be ERC20. And he actually figured out a way where I could put in a code at the end of every video. And if you saw the end of my video, you could enter it and you would receive 10K Binks Coin, but you would have to pay for the gas. So it would be user. But then I was like, you know what? Do I really want people to think I'm trying to launch my own scam coin? And I was like, no. But good for you, Ivan. Good for you that you want. No, I'm just kidding.
For us, it's all about education. We have our academy, coding academy, where we teach people how to do it. And so many people ask us, Ivan, can you actually show us live how it's done? And I'm, of course, I can do it live. And also to, just to show how easy it is. Because now I think people are starting to understand that just because you have a cryptocurrency, you are not a genius. You're not Vitalik 2.0. You're just a normal guy who maybe just copied the code from GitHub because there are so many ERC20 tokens. But 6 months ago, people didn't know that. People thought if you have your own cryptocurrency, you might be very smart and you know how blockchain works and you have everything figured out. But it's important to highlight also how easy it is.
Well, I would say on average, the people who are starting their own cryptocurrencies tend to be smarter. They tend to be people that are trying to do something. I mean, there are plenty of scams. I'm not saying that it's all good people. I mean, look, if you go to Twitter, the most common use case for Ethereum is running scams on giveaways. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. In fact, one of my good buddies, the same guy who programmed Binks Coin for me, or whatever he created, he said, I don't think people realize how easy it is to create an ERC20 token. It is ridiculously easy to create.
Absolutely. I mean, if you have done any programming, maybe if you've even done 1 month of programming, you will be able to understand exactly how it works. So it's not a rocket science, subject, not rocket science field. But of course, if you then want to make it more complex, you want to add more functionality, maybe you want to add some kind of dApp logic, it becomes very hard very quickly because you're dealing with money. And whenever you add new functionality, new feature, it's very important for you to audit your code. And something that looks very easy is most often very hard, because now you need to be 100% certain that your code is bug-free. And so when it comes to smart contracts and programming on blockchain, it's more like hardware. It's more like you're creating hardware, because once you have created a physical hardware and you have distributed it, you have sold it, there's no way for you to change it. And so if there is a critical bug and you have a lot of devices in the hands of your consumers, and it's all about money, they can lose millions of dollars, well, you are in a very bad spot. So this is with Ethereum contracts also. They need to be very short, very concise, and you need to spend a lot of money auditing them as well. So although it is easy to create the ERC20 token, building more stuff is very expensive and very hard also.
The blockchain audit industry has to have gone up 10,000% in the last year or so. I can only imagine how great it's been to be a company in that space. But that leads me to my next question here, which is, for a lot of the people who are investing in blockchain or are interested in the space or are getting involved, and you're not a programmer, you're not a developer, what are you supposed to do to make sure that what you're putting your money into is safe? What are some steps that they can take in order to try and make sure that they don't end up in a situation where there's badly written code that costs them all their money? Because I think that that's a scary thing for a lot of people that don't have that technical expertise.
Yeah. And that's a variable that is very unknown, and you cannot really verify everything yourself if you're not a programmer. And even the best programmers out there make mistakes. You saw, for example, the parity hack, and you had Gavin from Ethereum being one of the founders of parity. So even that incident happened, and so even the best Solidity developers make mistakes in smart contracts. So that is a variable we just have to live with, and you can definitely try to learn as much as possible, but realize that even programmers themselves sometimes cannot see the mistakes. And just for all of you who maybe are new to cryptocurrency, the parity hack happened, I think, in November last year. And basically, you had a lot of wallets using a smart contract that was destroyed. So it was able to destroy a smart contract. And suddenly, when that smart contract was destroyed, these wallets that relied on that smart contract couldn't function. And so you had a lot of funds being just frozen on the blockchain. No one can access them because wallets do not work. And so that is something to keep in mind. And it is just how much you trust the developer, the track record of developers. But that is also very hard, because you see, for example, Dan Larimer developing EOS, and EOS had some significant bugs even when they launched. So it is just nature of software to be buggy, and it is a very hard problem and a very hard space to really be certain that you are making the right decisions when you are investing. So the coins you're investing in are actually safe. I think you can just try to get as much knowledge as possible about the developers, and if you are a programmer, you can take a look yourself. But unfortunately, I do not have a better answer, and I do not have some magic pill you can do and find out if a coin is good or bad when it comes to actual technology.
Still a good question to ask for the people here, and maybe that's a good reason why to be careful when you look into the smaller market cap coins. Be careful with a lot of the smaller projects, because it's not even necessarily that they are scams. There are plenty of scams, but it also could be that they're just not, or that they made one error along the way. You only need one bad line of code to completely ruin the entire project. So yeah, like it's just something to be careful about, guys, and it's why I would really advocate, if you are investing in some of the small market cap stuff, just be careful out there. Try to do your research.
Yeah, and something I would like to add also is that the more this industry develops, the more safer it will become, because it's all about best practices and standards. The more bugs we see and the more hacks we see, the more we discover, and the more we can develop a framework of how a smart contract should be developed, which is missing now. And it is becoming better and better and better, but there are no best practices. When you are developing a normal server-based application, you're developing maybe a database, or you're developing some kind of backend code for your website, not in blockchain, just normal website. There are very, very robust frameworks and best practices that developers follow. In blockchain, because it's so new, there are no best practices. And so that is the issue, and that will become better and better the more we have different projects fail, and the more we have different hacks happening, because we learn. So although it is of course terrible with hacks, at least we learn something, and we can add more best practices and standards.
Those hacks do end up helping the overall community, but it sucks to be part of it. So it's
Absolutely.
sort of
Absolutely.
trade-off.
Absolutely, and that is why I'm telling you, it's an unknown variable when it comes to the technical side, and being early in the space comes with this unknown variable. And most people are not programmers. I totally understand that. So that variable is unknown for them. But it is high risk, high reward. It's high risk technology, high risk market, high risk everything, and hopefully high reward.
We all can hope. Speaking of high reward, let's talk about what your portfolio looks like, because I think most people are at least somewhat vocal on YouTube with the coins that they do choose to invest in, maybe some breakdowns, percentages. We just had Crypto Bobby on the pod. He actually posts on his blog exact percentages of every single coin that he has, which sometimes I think when I try to do that, it's like hard to even figure out. But anyway, the point remains, a lot of YouTubers like to talk about their portfolios or their breakdowns. Is that something that you share with your audience? And if so, can you give us a general idea of the types of projects you're investing in?
Yeah. So I have no problem sharing, but I've never published a specific report about the percentages. But now and then I do say what kind of coins I do hold. But personally, being in the blockchain space, I'm not that risk tolerant. I mean, just me being in blockchain space, it is high enough risk for me. So it's not that I'm going wild with a lot of strange coins. For me, it's number one, Bitcoin, which is something that have been having for a very long time, and that I still believe in the most, and that I still think is the most safe and robust investment moment. Although, of course, nothing is safe. That's the thing. Nothing is safe in the space. With
neither is Facebook these days.
Exactly. True that. Number 2, Ethereum. Also EOS. What else? Also, I think Loom is interesting. Loom network with their sidechain technologies, and also very small amounts in, for example, Ripple. I think Ripple, they're really doing their work when it comes to business side and really pushing this technology forward. Not that I believe in the decentralization aspects of it per se, but I just think that they're very, very active, and they are really skilled businessmen. That is something you cannot take away from them, and why not be on that journey with them as well.
What's interesting about Ripple is that they just own so much of the money supply that they're able to then sell it to use it for all types of stuff. They have Bill Clinton coming to speak at that thing. You see it on Ellen, you see it on all this stuff, right? But
I saw that Crypto Bobby is also going to that to that conference, right? With Ripple conference with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, he made like that fake like guy that eats a lot of buffalo chicken wraps thing or whatever on Twitter. Yeah, that was great. But I don't know. I see what you're saying in that they have sort of the business sense and at least the finance to be able to make these types of things happen. But to me, that just sort of falls back to bullshit marketing over actually trying to create something that I feel is extremely useful. You can make the argument that yes, it is useful for institutions and banks. We all know about the whole Ripple and banks thing, but I think at least from like a transactions per second standpoint, even though Ripple is supposed to be very fast, I think we're going to see other cryptocurrencies rival that in a way where Ripple Labs can't just like shut down your transfers and the amount of control that they have on that network is simply unacceptable, I think.
Yeah, and you know what? When we speak about that here on YouTube and in the crypto community, that might be something that really worries us. But at the same time, when they are making these deals with institutions and the banking space, they are more looking at the company, and they have all of this negative marketing about cryptocurrencies, which is unfortunate. But if you ask, just a high net worth individual in their 60s, and you tell them about Bitcoin, they will be very suspicious. And when it comes to investing their money in it, now they're learning more and more. The more ETF is being on the news, and the more news you have about Bitcoin in the traditional space, they are learning. But I feel that up until now, maybe last year and up until the summer with the whole ETF debate, I feel like they just didn't trust anything except Ripple, because they worked in a bank and they have heard Ripple from their colleagues. And so I'm in touch with many of these individuals here in Sweden, and I'm networking a lot with the finance space, traditional finance space, and they are all excited about Ripple. And that is the thing. That might change, as you say. It might change very well, and you have another technology being very marketed towards that sector, very wealthy individuals who have experience in the fintech space. But up until recently, they trust Ripple more. Right. And so I'm not saying it's good or bad. And as you mentioned, many people are very negative towards Ripple, but I'm just saying my experiences and how I see the industry when it comes to traditional fintech.
I will admit to my audience that I am biased. I have never owned a Ripple, and at many points in my life have been shorting it. So I just want to, well, I'll come clean that I'm not the biggest fan of Ripple. But the main thing I think I see here, at least I feel here, is that are they excited because they heard about it from a business partner, or because of what Ripple is actually trying to do? And to me, it seems like it's all because of the marketing. It's all because they're like buying ad spots on Ellen. They're bringing in Bill Clinton. It's Ripple this. Oh, we got a new logo. We're spending money over here. We're like,
yeah, and it goes back to the thing we talked about before, about is it the best technology that always wins? And in the case of Ripple, of course, that technology will not win the hearts of true decentralization believers and true believers of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But when it comes to that particular audience I'm talking about, then it's absolutely, that marketing works. That marketing works for sure.
Okay, yeah. One last comment I want to make there, because when you say true decentralization, I feel like there are always different degrees of decentralization. That it's never just like you either are decentralized or you're centralized. There's all these different levels that it can be. And so Ripple is like, in my opinion, like the most purely centralized one, even because they control the supply. They really just control the supply. And to me, that's just a sort of unacceptable degree of it. I'm not saying that everything needs to be decentralized. It's certainly like people just love to throw decentralized in there into everything. Everything doesn't have to be decentralized. There are definitely projects that benefit from some degree of centralization to be able to help streamline and make it a better product and whatever. But to me, that's too far. Anyway, I don't want to hammer Ripple here too
but also, Doug, we're not the target audience for them. That is the thing. It's not that they're going out there and really marketing to us. And yes, it is true what you're saying. Their target audience is the financial space, the traditional finance, and to them that might not be as an argument as it is to us, as a counter argument. So I think it's important to keep in mind different audiences and different people who are targeted by specific coins and the marketing. But that being said, it's all about the ideology, and I totally understand why people have so negative views on Ripple and the future of Ripple. But to realize, what, I don't think we're the audience of their marketing efforts.
Definitely true. I guess one positive thing, or maybe this isn't a positive thing, but one reason it's like that for Ripple is, I've actually been around cryptocurrency for a while. I've only been making content since last December, but I've been in the streets for a while. And I remember back in the day, like 2013, 2014, people really hated Ripple because they created their own supply. And this is before ICOs. This is before everyone was creating their own supply, right? And so there was this stigma with Ripple specifically because you don't do that. You do it like Monero did. You do it like Bitcoin did. You do it like you do it like Litecoin did. You do it like that, right? Fair is fair. You mine it. And so there was this stigma associated with creating the supply in that way that I think has stuck with it sort of through time, despite the fact that now the majority of cryptocurrencies have done the exact same thing, which I guess to some extent is unfair to Ripple.
And when it comes to ICOs, I think the ICO space is going to develop further when it comes to investors actually understanding the specifics of the projects they're buying. Because as you mentioned, last year, you could create an ICO where you hold, majority of tokens. You have only one key to those tokens, and it would work. Now, investors are becoming more and more serious and more knowledgeable. Also, something else that is happening is that the market in ICOs is moving away from retail investors. Instead, you have VC and funds and traditional finance also moving into ICOs, which is good if you only count the money, because the money is increasing in ICOs. Although we have a bear market, if you actually see at the amounts raised in ICOs in 2018, it's way beyond 2017 already, although you have a bear market. And that is because you have VCs and other type of money moving in. And of course, they're doing a lot more due diligence. So I think absolutely true what you're saying. And personally, I think the ICOs is becoming a space which is very hard. It's very hard to do an ICO nowadays. And the whole market is maturing at a very, very fast rate.
That makes a sort of natural segue here. Let's talk about the ICO market in general, because I think this is something that we've seen really explode in 2017. There was definitely ICO sort of began. I think Ethereum is got to be the first major ICO, and then obviously many cryptocurrencies have used their platform for tokens since then. But we really saw it explode in 2017, and money is still pumping into these things because people understand the upside. But we're seeing a shift. We're seeing a shift from money going in like a wide pre-sale to the public, to strategic money, to strategic advisors, to these investment firms, to strategic partners. And so it's interesting to me the way that market is starting to shape itself. We're seeing more and more massive pre-sale ICOs or massive pre-sales to strategic partners, rather than these wide net public sales where everyone's getting in for a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, you know what? I think the average ICO nowadays is like 16% public. Everything else is private and pre-sale. You're completely right.
And the better it is, the less public it usually is.
Exactly, because they sell out. There's so much interest towards ICOs in the traditional finance, and there's simply nothing left to the public. And it is, of course, good for ICOs. They make a lot of money, and VCs are also happy because they get discounts. But of course, talking about the average Joe, the public markets, it is negative. And that is why I think everyone should be very careful and look at token metrics before you invest. Look at actual distribution, because if you are buying public sale and they have 50% discounts in pre-sale and the private sale, which is not uncommon, well, you are in a very bad situation when the trading starts.
Absolutely true. Tokenomics, the economics of the tokens are so important. Understanding how many will exist, when they're released, who's been in sort of before you or after you, or understanding everything going on with the token, it can be, you know, the most important part about whether that investment ends up making money or not. One good thing that I will say is a lot of legitimate, like a lot of the bigger projects are moving away from steeply discounted tokens, because it used to be that by bringing in pre-sale, you were sort of securing that funding, and that was providing a lot of value. But as the better projects have had increasing demand to purchase into their project, they've had less need to have to sell at bonuses and discounts. I'm not saying they don't happen, but at least from my understanding, and I have had quite a few meetings with different projects this year, we've seen a shift away from the bonus and discount structures and over to just, hey man, you're lucky to be here structures.
And I think the bear market just plays a role here, and the bear market makes ICOs more desperate and more, they worry more about their project, because they might have put a lot of money into it. Doing an ICO now is expensive, and as you say, in the bear market, it might very well be the case that they take this chance and take a lot of private investors and do discounts. But yes, I agree with you. Good projects don't need to do that. But also, when it comes to good projects, how do you actually ensure that people understand your technology? How do you actually ensure that even though you are a good project, that people will come and invest? Those things are very different. And I agree with you theoretically, but I haven't, practically seen that good projects just relax and do less pre-sale and private sale. I think all ICOs are very in a situation where they are very worried currently, and the focus is, in my view, too much on pre-sale and private sale. But I do understand why. I do understand.
I guess I don't mean that they're laid back. I just think that they have so many options for who they can sell pieces to, that they're not, oh man, how are we going to fill the rest of this round? They're like, okay, we got all these guys. What's that guy bring? What's this guy bring? And it kind of works. It works out for them, not only because they get to, obviously fill the round, but then also they get to bring people on board that can help them.
Yeah, but you're still speaking about private sales, right? You're not speaking about
private sales.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you there. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, we're not seeing public sales nearly as often here for a lot of the best. Anyway, we're kind of beating a dead horse. But are there any upcoming projects that you're excited about that you think have a lot of potential? That, I guess just anything new. That
when it comes to infrastructure, because that is where I think the most interest is currently. Because when it comes to dApps, so basically there are projects doing dApps, projects doing infrastructure, projects doing just payments, maybe clone of Bitcoin, but with some other features. When you look at these categories, I think infrastructure is the most important and also the most interesting. And that is something that the market has realized during the past 6, maybe 8 months, that everyone is switching to infrastructure. And it is also very important because you realize, for example, CryptoKitties completely crash Ethereum network. You cannot do anything. So how can you even try to build a dApp where the infrastructure is not there? And when it comes to infrastructure, something that I think is very interesting are sidechains. Sidechains, and for example, Plasma Cash. And Plasma Cash is all about being able to transfer your assets from the main Ethereum chain to a sidechain connected to Ethereum in a safe way. That is what I think will make the biggest difference in the short term. Long term, we still don't know what kind of technologies will arrive. Short term, I think sidechains are very interesting. And when it comes to sidechains, you have, for example, Loom Network, you have Engine Coin trying to do sidechains, and it's all about how can we scale Ethereum. But also, I think Cardano is interesting, and the issue with Cardano is the fact that it's all theoretical. I mean, it's all in theory. We need some practical solutions, and we need them to ship code. That is what is missing. But when it comes to Cardano, is that they take a different approach to programming. So, for example, on Ethereum, you use Solidity. On EOS, you use C++. Both Solidity and C++ are so-called imperative languages. You basically tell what computer should do step by step. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Cardano, on the other hand, they use functional approach. And functional programming basically means that you speak to the computer more mathematically. You you reason in terms of functions. You basically tell the computer, do this function, then do that function, use the result of this function to insert it in a new function. And it's more mathematically proof reasoning, meaning, which is the most important part here, meaning that you can do proofs. You can mathematically prove that your smart contract will not end up in some kind of weird state and, for example, leak all money, or that your smart contract will be able to be hacked or something similar. So you can have actually mathematical proofs of what your smart contract is doing and what it is not doing. So technically speaking, I think that is a very interesting approach. Although you can, I mean, theoretically, you can do that on Ethereum and on EOS also. It's just much harder. It's so much easier when you have functional approach and functional programming. So that is what I'm excited with currently. Sidechains and also functional programming entering the field more and more. And I do not think Cardano will be the last project. I think people will see Cardano making the first steps, and then you will have other more projects also doing functional programming.
Well, if the past has been anything like what the future might be, then we're going to see people copy anything that might look like it'll be successful, because we've seen every version of every single coin. Yeah, I guess
Bitcoin Diamond still has value and is still pumping and also dumping. Although it's been, when these forks of Bitcoin started coming out, I thought they will disappear, because why should there be any value in them? But they're still here. And of course, as you just said, there is a natural incentive in copying, because there is a good chance that you will make money. So people are just incentivized to copy because their projects might stay, especially if you do different marketing. You try to market it differently, but you use the code from another project, basically.
So the Bitcoin forks are kind of funny. That's actually just a good subject in general we can talk about. But they got progressively less legitimate as we went along. First, we had Bitcoin Cash, which a sizable portion of people really believe in. Then you had Bitcoin Gold, and it was like, okay. I mean, I kind of like what Bitcoin Gold tried to do, sort of. They tried to fix sort of the way that ASICs are just dominating the mining. And I was like, all right, kind of whatever. And then we had Bitcoin Diamond, and then we had Bitcoin everything else. And yeah, it is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous what happened. But here's the interesting part to that, which is when you have these forks, there are so many people that just won't get their fork to money. They just like either don't know about it, or they just don't care about it, or they just like don't know how to do it. That what happens is the total supply or the total market cap of those coins, it looks like it's this huge number, but it's really not, because they're just not in circulation, or people are not going to put it into circulation because they just don't know any better. So you actually have a much smaller supply than what's listed, and when it's being traded, it's I don't know.
And also, the market cap is a very bad metric in reality, because you and I, we can create a coin. We have 1,000 coins. I managed to sell one coin to my neighbor. I trick him in buying one coin for $100, and suddenly you have 100,000 market cap, because the last trade was at $100 and we have 1,000 coins. So market cap is definitely something to be very careful about, and look at the volume also, not only market cap. And it is sometimes unfortunate that coin market cap only goes by market cap by default, but that can be tricky and that can be very misleading.
Yeah, I think that volume is absurdly important. It's an absurdly important statistic, and people, when they see a price, they just see a number. But if there's no market depth, it doesn't matter. If one guy buys one coin for $100, but there's no one else to buy, it doesn't matter there was $100. The fake price, it doesn't really mean anything.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Let's talk about the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash fork. I'm not sure how much you've talked about this in general, what your opinions are. Do you want to just talk about this, just an overall personal view?
Absolutely. So something interesting is that Bitcoin Cash fork happened a year ago. Yesterday was 1 year anniversary. And number one, it shows just how quickly the market develops, because a year ago you didn't have Bitcoin Cash, but more about the specifics of the technology. Well, you see, I definitely agree that big blocks, they have a right to exist as a movement. As a movement, it's a legitimate movement. But when it comes to Bitcoin Cash in particular, this is something that the creator of Dogecoin, Jackson Palmer, and I discussed on my channel a few weeks ago, or a week ago or so. This movement has been hijacked, in my view. This movement could have been something way more legitimate than it currently is. And when it comes to, for example, bigger blocks versus layer 2 solutions, it's all about how far ahead you want to look. So, for example, of course, if you increase the block size now, and the blocks are filled up again because you have more adoption, well, you need to do it once again and once again. So it's more about how long-term or short-term you're looking. Now, I totally understand the point that it might have been a good idea to raise the block size on Bitcoin just to remove the congestion when we had the bull market and no one really used Bitcoin and everyone got this very bad impression of Bitcoin. I totally understand the argument. However, you need to realize that if you are to increase the block size, it is a hard fork. You need to do a hard fork. Technically, it's very dangerous to do a hard fork. And that is why the Bitcoin core developer said, no, we're not going to do that. We will not do a hard fork because it's dangerous, because you can have a network split. Because if everyone doesn't migrate, everyone doesn't get the new client, well, you have two different coins. And they said, no. Let's do instead layer 2 solutions, Lightning, SegWit, and try to do it in a way that that is less likely and less to disrupt the network and less risky. And so in that sense, I understand both sides. But it is just, the way the Bitcoin Cash community is handling themselves, and that you have so few people, and that you have this bad marketing going on with Bitcoin, that they're talking bad about Bitcoin and basically throwing a lot of crap towards Bitcoin. I don't like that, and I do not respect that they're doing so. Also, of course, stealing the Bitcoin name and trying to be understood and be taken as Bitcoin is very misleading for new people, because you might remember the incident on bitcoin.com where they basically replaced Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. So Bitcoin was BCH and that Bitcoin core was BTC. And that is, of course, very misleading. And that is not something that I think we in the crypto community should do. So I do not respect the way they are handling themselves. I do understand bigger blocks, and I think this movement has a right to exist, basically.
I would agree with you across the board. I think one thing that I really dislike, though, about the Bitcoin Cash community, and more specifically Roger Ver, is they try and like kind of throw misdirection into it. They try to make it about things that it's not about. They try and basically to prove the validity of their point by talking about other things or attacking things that aren't really extremely relevant to the core conversation. There was a podcast, I did a video on this recently, but there was a podcast where Roger Ver basically took one of my videos that I made on Roger Ver, where I essentially made fun of him for 20 minutes. But I also showed like all kinds of things that he did. He did things like outing people's private information because they didn't pay a $50 transaction or whatever. I researched Roger for a decent period of time. I had people come up with incidents that happened. I looked over them. I found them. These are real things that happened. And I made a video showing some of the things that he did that were not acceptable and also making fun of it. And then he goes on a podcast and says, this video was terrible. He doesn't even, it proves nothing about the validity of Bitcoin Cash. And it's just like, dude,
but it wasn't about Bitcoin Cash, right?
My video wasn't about Bitcoin Cash, you know? It would be like, Ivan, it would be like if you made a video on me and you're just talking some shit about me. And then I came out and I said, how dare Ivan attack poker? Poker doesn't deserve that. It's like, who brought there's no reason poker should be in this conversation.
Right.
And I even started my video with, this is not about Bitcoin Cash. And like, it just, there's to Roger, it's all about Bitcoin Cash. And it's like, sometimes that mindset of say whatever it is, try and win this argument because Bitcoin Cash will win. It's just like, you sort of lose legitimacy to the public, because even though your community has got your back, right? They believe in you. You guys are all invested in the same thing. But to neutral third parties, when you see people like that, I think it's pretty off-putting, because you don't want to be part of something that has crazy people.
I totally agree with you. And when it comes to crazy people, as you say, I don't understand why Roger is so emotionally invested in Bitcoin Cash, because he has, I don't know, maybe he's a billionaire, I suppose he is, and he has so much funds, so much money, and in one way I do not understand his motivation. And it might very well be the case that he truly believes in Bitcoin Cash. I mean, sometimes I ask myself, why is he so emotionally invested? Is it just because he wants to get even richer? Maybe, who knows? But that is something that sometimes puzzles me, that he, for example, you might have seen this video where you had a streamer basically saying be cash, and he freaked out. He absolutely freaked out.
That's
And
one of the best. That's one of the best moments. That's one of the best Roger Ver moments. Yeah, I
yeah,
saw that.
and I don't understand why. Is it that he truly believes in Bitcoin Cash? Why are you so emotionally invested in it? And maybe you can give me an explanation. But if you are so rich, you already have everything figured out. You can just preach Bitcoin and be this very liked person, which he was in the beginning. That is something to realize. He was Bitcoin Jesus in the beginning. And what also I'm thinking about this pyramid, the Maslow pyramid of needs. That first stage is that you need food and shelter, then you need job, and at the top you need basically satisfaction with your life. You need that people recognize you, you need that people remember you. So I feel that he should be on the top. He should be just trying to make a name for himself, trying to be this revolutionary person that everyone respects, but also his actions go against that. So maybe you have some kind of explanation to that.
I'm actually going to give Roger the benefit of the doubt here, because I just think that he's been in the space a long time. Obviously, there are people who are always motivated by money permanently, and I'm not. I do think Roger is motivated by money to some extent, and he wants Bitcoin Cash to succeed. But I also think that if you look at Roger's life, he's gone through a bunch of shit from governments, and he went to jail for a crime. I'm not gonna sugarcoat what he did, which was obviously illegal, to try and sell fireworks through the mail and mail them to people. Whatever he did exactly, I don't want to misquote it here. But the government's had a really negative impact on his life, and I think he's trying to do something about that with what he believes in. So that's why I don't really try and attack the basis of what his beliefs are on that front, because you know what, man, the great thing about cryptocurrency, and this is something that tilts me about Bitcoin maximalists, the great thing about our community is everyone believes different shit, and that's okay. It's okay to have your favorite coin. It's okay to believe that big blocks are the way to go. It's okay to believe in whatever you want to believe in. That's totally acceptable. Now, you might lose a lot of money if you're wrong, but that's what makes our community great. It's everyone putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and believing in something. And that's fine. That's totally acceptable if he wants to go out there and spread the good word. The problem is when you start to do, shady, misleading things, or really, just not acceptable things to the community or to people, or to try and win arguments by not really, making logical counterpoints, but rather just claiming straw man that this isn't what my argument's about, and just getting really upset. I guess those are the things that I really I dislike about Roger Ver. But you know what, man? I'm actually going to say this. I actually think that it's good to have people like Roger Ver in the community that are passionate about what they believe in and trying to help. And maybe, he just talked shit about me on a podcast. Maybe I'm not supposed to say nice things. I don't know. But honestly, I overall, I think it's good.
And I totally agree with you. He's passionate, and let's see where it goes. But something else to mention is that I do think that Bitcoin Cash is also here to stay, just because of the fact that they have received so much support from, for example, Coinbase. And that is also one coin that I think will be here for a long time.
Now, the Coinbase thing was bullshit with Bitcoin Cash last December. The way that they handled that, and the most suspicious thing to me was how the Bitcoin Cash network stopped being functional before the Coinbase launch, and then in conjunction with the Coinbase launch was launched again. You remember this, right?
Yeah. So you're speaking about the insider trading allegations back in the day when they listed.
Yeah, if we want to use the word allegations, sure.
Well, you know what? I don't know what happened there. I agree with you that it looks suspicious. And nowadays, they are very, very early with releasing exactly what they're working on. Just, recently they released a statement that they are thinking about. They're not even, starting to develop. They're thinking about adding some other coins. I don't remember which ones exactly. I think it's like Zcash or 0x. I don't remember which ones.
There were some weird ones on the list, if I recall. But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about.
And so it might very well be the fact that they mismanaged the situation, and it came out as this very, very bad PR event. But at the same time, maybe it is like you say, maybe it was significant insider trading. And you know what? If it is the case that you're a programmer at Coinbase and you realize that we are implementing Bitcoin Cash functionality, why don't go home and buy a lot of Bitcoin Cash? Why not? And it might have happened, and I do think it absolutely happened also. If it is the case that, they got the knowledge way, way in advance, and they could plan and maybe give their relatives information, and they could buy a lot.
I like that you said it might have happened, and it definitely happened.
Yeah, basically sometimes I explain my thoughts and then I kind of convince myself that the thoughts are even stronger. So that is absolutely true.
I know what you're saying, man. I know what you're saying. Actually, so let's change gears for a second. Let's talk a little bit more about you. So where are you from, man?
Yo, originally I'm from Belarus, but I've lived in Sweden almost all my life, and I'm in Stockholm currently, and this is where I work. This is where I've been living now since 2014, and yeah, that is where the place is. And for me, I was very early with programming, 9 years old, and did a lot of it in the start because I was just fascinated by the technology, and discovered Bitcoin in 2013. And since then, it's just been a roller coaster because you realize how large the space is.
Oh, it's huge, man. How many languages do you speak?
I speak Russian, Swedish, and English. Well, I know, I know some German. I can understand German at the medium level, but I cannot speak very well.
I just want to say it's really impressive to me, people that can learn other languages, because I'm going to go out and let them assume English isn't your first language. Is that true?
No, A is the third one. And really, you know what? If you look at my videos from 1 year ago, I was so bad. I really started learning English for real with YouTube, and really started to improve a lot. Because, you learn in school, you watch. In Sweden, what is good with English is that you have all the movies in English and you have subtitles. It's not like in Germany or Russia where they actually replace the sound of the voices. You actually get subtitles. So that is good with Sweden. But, I didn't get too much practice, and I didn't get to talk a lot with English-speaking people. And so YouTube was really where I started to develop myself as #1 public speaker, as a host of, YouTube channel, but also English, of course.
Right, but it's very impressive to me that you're one of the biggest cryptocurrency YouTubers in your third language you learned. That's impressive, man. Like I honestly, like, and my viewers probably know this. I can barely speak English. It's my only language.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
I guess I find that impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But at the same time, English, it is absolute must. You need to know that. So for me, it was, I felt that I was catching up. I didn't feel that, I'm so awesome. I speak my third language on YouTube. For me, it was like, at last I can catch up and feel more comfortable speaking. Because guys, go watch my previous videos 1 year ago. It wasn't pretty at all. But at the same time, I think it's also, it adds character. I've received many comments. People like my English. So it's both good and bad.
Yeah, no, your English is great. Also, I've seen one thing over the course of your videos, because I've gone through your channel a little bit, and also when I have a guest on, I like to do a little research and just see them. And your background has really evolved over time. When you started, it was very simple, and now we've got, like, what is this, like a box?
Yeah.
What's going on behind you?
Yeah, so we have 6 screens going on. Some people say it's green screen, but guys, I can physically, I can touch them. So they're not green screens. They're absolutely real. And one of my biggest motivators and one of my biggest role models is Grant Cardone. I don't know if you know him. He's a business guy on YouTube. He talks about sales. He talks about building business, building a team. And I was always very, very inspired by Grant Cardone. And I watched him way, way before. And he has a studio with screens. So, I thought I want to be like Grant Cardone. So I got all the screens, and this is how the screen situation happened. And also it adds motivation to me. That is why also you talked about consistency. It's just, I love being here in the studio. I love talking to the camera. And of course, this environment adds to my motivation. I feel professional. It feels good.
Well, it looks professional. I think when you tune in and see, you're like, welcome to Good Morning Crypto, and you're talking
yeah.
You got your coffee and you're like at the desk, like, good morning. I'm like, wait, am I watching a news show or am I watching No, that's awesome, man. So let's talk about YouTube specifically a little bit, because this is something that's been really interesting to me. Now, in most industries, there are times that are better to make videos or worse to make videos as far as being a content creator. We're going to talk about this only from the content creator perspective. Yeah. There are times where things are hot. During poker, so we just had the World Series of Poker. During that period of time, if you put out videos, there's way more people looking for videos, so you do much better. Now, cryptocurrency has the same thing, but it's directly tied to price. As price increases, more people watch cryptocurrency content. And so this interesting sort of conundrum exists, and you solve this by just doing it every day no matter what, which is certainly the noble approach. But you have this interesting issue, which is, as Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are doing better and they're increasing in value, you have more viewers, and as they're doing worse, you have less viewers. So what are your thoughts on the overall landscape of YouTube? Does that affect you at all? Or I mean, it seems like you're just a machine, but does that have any effect on your content?
It absolutely does. Of course, everyone watches the views, everyone watches the view count, no question about that. But for me, it is the fact that I'm working with cryptocurrencies. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I have a stock on blockchain, which is a company we run, which is a cryptocurrency consultancy. And, you know, the YouTube is a very good marketing channel for me. Also, it's all about discipline. In February, I just said to myself, I'm going to do this every day. And I'm doing it every day. And it's, you know, it takes 20 minutes. It takes maybe an hour of research the evening before that. It takes 20 minutes. I start at 8 o'clock. I'm finished at 8:20. I already feel that I have accomplished a lot in my day. And, you know, the clock is only 8:20 and I'm already kind of done. You know, the whole day hasn't even started. So I just love the feeling of doing it. Also, it's fun. I mean, I love doing it. That is the thing. And for me, of course, it matters how many people view. No question about that. But I mean, currently it's not that bad. It's not that I get like, you know, 300 views and then no one watches. But it does affect. There are fewer people who watch, but at the same time, you know what? We are doing courses, as I told you, and we launched our programming course this spring in the bear market, in the middle of the bear market, and the interest was huge, immense, although we had the bear market. So I feel that I still have a very good core audience that really believes in technology, that are really, you know, truly interested in that. And also I see Fabrice in the chat, actually from my channel. Fabrice Manzo in the chat, huge shout out. Also Charles, you know, I see some of my regular viewers in your chat currently, and I do appreciate them a lot. And sometimes it is this community that you're building that really keeps you driving forward.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the people are why we do this. You don't make videos for nobody. You make videos for the people, right?
And that's also what I like about you, Doug, because you basically you have a different strategy, but you tell people, you know what, I want to have views. That's absolutely true, and that is absolutely understandable strategy. Also, you're not just, you know, wasting your time to not get views. And sometimes people are like, oh, Doug only makes videos in a bull market, but you have your strategy and you're honest with that, and I respect that as well.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no. So I like to in general make videos when I have a really good subject. And one of the things that happens way more often in bull markets there are people doing ridiculous shit. You know, just absurd scams, because the bull market allows them to flourish. So yeah, I think there are generally better stories, but then also there's just a much bigger audience. Man, in January of this year, it was completely ridiculous. Videos were just popping off, man. You put a video out, it could just like you don't even know how big it could go. You
I know.
No idea. Now it is not like that at all. And one of the things that I've seen with cryptocurrency compared to other industries is that information is very time sensitive. If you put out a video, you're generally speaking going to see most of its viewership in the first day, right? Maybe a little in the second day, and then it's kind of dead. But a lot of other industries on YouTube are not like that. And I guess I get a little bit of a different perspective because coming from doing YouTube for poker, you know, poker is very different. It's like if you make a video and you're analyzing a hand that happened between two people, then in 2 years, that's still kind of relevant, right? You might want to see that hand. You might want to see, you know, the people play and get some analysis and whatever. So I see videos like consistently are always doing well. But with my crypto channel, I've noticed if I don't put on a video in like a few days, no one's there. It's the weirdest thing. It's so different. And you know, it kind of makes it a lot more demanding. If you want to really succeed on YouTube with cryptocurrency, you got to be really grinding it out, man, during the bear market stretches. You got to be really putting out a lot of content. And that's something that you do.
You know, and that is interesting because I thought it is just the way YouTube works, that you get views first day and then they want you to do something else. And that's interesting that you say that you actually get more consistent views on your poker channel. But actually now when I think about it, one of the biggest videos on my channel are the interviews, for example, with Dan Larimer, Richard Hard. And of course, they also grew during a long time. But generally, yes, totally true. It's the first day, then it's dead. But you know, up until now, I thought it's just the way YouTube worked. And sometimes YouTube can be a bit frustrating because you have all of the subscribers, but they don't see anything. YouTube doesn't show anything to them. And while I understand why YouTube is doing so, they, of course, have their interests and they basically know what you want to watch without you knowing yourself. with their AI technology and machine learning, they can basically predict what you want to watch so that you stay on YouTube. So they're showing you the things they think you want to watch. So it's definitely hard, and it's I don't know how it works. I think you're way better at that, at adapting to YouTube algorithm and really, really using it to your fullest, but it's a mystery to me still.
It's definitely a game. Actually, I'm putting out a video either today or tomorrow. Already recorded it, but I'm putting out a video on if you're trying to learn about YouTube, you're trying to get better at YouTube, you want to know about some strategies, you want some of like my like insights into like how to try and succeed. I'm going to put a video out on that. I think it's an interesting subject. It's tough because YouTube, essentially their algorithm dictates how often they show your videos to people,
right?
And they kind of tell you how it works, but then they don't really. So you're always out there trying to experiment, to try and figure out what works, what doesn't work. How can I have my videos be more successful? And a big thing, and this is extremely true in the crypto space, is packaging. One of the things that people don't realize in cryptocurrency YouTube, people are getting a bit better at it, I think, is that the packaging of a video is actually as important as the video itself, which seems stupid. The important part should be the content of the video, right? And I mean, it is important, but if you don't have an interesting title and thumbnail, no one's going to watch your video because it's like, oh, that's boring, I'm not going to click on it. And so that element of the game is ridiculously important. And what's funny to me about in crypto is you got all these super smart people, and then they put like a video up and it says like, the video's just like a thumbnail of like a graph. Yeah. You can't even read anything. And then beneath it, its title is July 31st, 2008. Technical analysis of Bitcoin to Ethereum pair. It's like, dude, no one's going to click on that. Nobody will click on that video.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, if you try something different, you're a clickbaiter. It's, suddenly it's clickbait. But I totally agree with you. You need to use that to your advantage. And clickbait is not clickbait if you actually deliver in your video. If you actually talk about what your clickbait says, it's not clickbait.
Exactly. That's the line. Your job as a creator is to get people in the door, but not lie. And so if you want to get creative with how you word it, that's totally fine. That's all part of the game. Also, man, Ivan, I got to be honest with you, dude. The amount of people who think that they should get to decide what I make, or like, oh, you're going to title it like this. Oh, well, you're going to put that picture. Yeah. Bro, honestly, seriously, if you think that you get to decide the free content that I'm putting out, that's so ridiculous. I
agree with you.
Why do people think that, like, look, here's the thing about being a creator. It's tough. Like, you put out a lot of content, man, especially if you're grinding it. A lot of videos. I've been on YouTube, I think, for just a little over 2 years. I think I've done 400 and something videos, right? You're on pace to crush that. All right. So you know what it's like, man. And like, I think that it's important for the audience to understand that it does take time and effort to make this content. You're like, Doug, the audience is like, Doug, it's hard to believe you. And Ivan just said, like, yeah, I just wake up 20 minutes, boom, we're done. Like, dude, come on. We're supposed to be complaining.
20 minutes is also 1 hour before that when I need to prepare it. But also, for me, it's important to educate and to reach people. So, I do not do editing. I do not do effects. Obviously, you are in a different niche. You need to be funny. You have this very funny editing. I do not have that. So for me, it's more about, okay, how can I streamline this so that I'm just turning the stream on, talking, educating, turning the stream off, and doing research. So I've really cut down on everything that is not the actual, knowledge and not the actual content. But of course, then I kind of have compensated with the screens and, trying to make it look nice.
Right, but that makes sense because what you're doing is you're giving people expertise. You're giving your insights to try and help people, given the fact that you actually know what's going on. Right. And you're not here to tell, you're not doing videos to tell people jokes. You're doing videos to try and help people learn. And that's a different genre entirely. The space needs that. The space needs people that actually know what they're talking about, because I have seen in a short period on YouTube, so many people lie to their audiences, mislead their audiences, tell them the wrong information. Actually, this is a question that I had written down that I wanted to ask you, which was, how does it sort of like weigh on you, the responsibility that you have when you make a video? Because people might make large financial decisions based around that. People are probably going to really take what you say and hold on to that as their sort of like way that they look at things. Does that weigh on you at all, knowing that could have a significant impact on people's lives?
Absolutely. And that is why I'm always very clear. Whenever I make some kind of, claim that might influence people, I say it's not financial advice, and no one should be making financial decisions based on one YouTube video. That is just a core rule. But absolutely, you need to remind. You need to remind that it's just my opinion, and for me, it's sharing my thoughts, my views, what I believe in, and also about the technology, like what is actually going on the tech side. That being said, the technology and markets are two separate different things, and in many cases, good technology is not the most valued technology, as we discussed earlier. So in many ways, you cannot really make a connection between the tech and the markets, and therefore, I think people should just be looking at as much information as possible and not rely on one YouTube channel. It's all about building your own image, and this is something that I've been talking a lot on my channel. Also, it's all about using different sources. I'm only one of the sources. I'm only one of the sources that you can use on YouTube. There are so many other sources, and please do not make any financial decisions based on one YouTube guy.
What are some of the other sources that you would recommend people checking out if they want to learn more? And actually also, so you talked about your company earlier a little bit. Do you want to expand on that a bit too?
So when it comes to sources, it's for me a big part is Twitter, of course. Then also I use an app called Feedly, where you can basically insert all the newspapers with cryptocurrencies and see a nice feed of everything. That is very, very helpful for me. But when it comes to actually, investment decisions and actually making a decision, I think it's not only about sources. It's also about the market. I mean, where are we in the market? Even if there are good news coming out, the market is bad. Chances are it might not be as lucrative as you imagine. So I think it's all about different aspects. Read as much as possible. Read on Twitter. Read in. There are some newsletters that I followed before also, but now I don't really do that. For me, it's number one Twitter, number two Feedly with all the newspapers. And also because I know you have your own news site, Coin Central. We launched our own also during, I think, March, April. We are also exposed to news a lot. I mean, I read so many news, it's sometimes it's ridiculous. And I feel that it helps me. It helps me to build a very good understanding of the situation. And also it helps me to see the different views different newspapers are taking. For example, you have Bitcoin.com being highly Bitcoin Cash related and being a bit biased towards Bitcoin Cash. That is something to realize as well. You need to have different opinions, different sources, and read different versions of the same thing. But then also, I try to provide something original as well. Something that is very popular on my channel is GitHub analysis. For example, on Bitcoin and other projects, where we take a look at the GitHub repository and where the code is located, and basically show people how to look at the project, what is important, how to see if people are working on the project, how to see the latest code changes, and so on and so forth. But I don't have a silver bullet here either, or some kind of magic pill that you just read something and you know what to invest in.
Well, you don't have to have a magic pill. I mean, that's the whole point. There is no magic pill. You just have to try and learn as much as you possibly can, and that's your responsibility in this space to always be learning. That just makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
So you talk about Twitter a decent amount. Who are some of the people that are your favorite follows on Twitter that you'd recommend someone if they wanted to learn from, or funny people or interesting people or informative? Who are your favorite Twitter follows?
Okay, so I follow all the big ones. The CEO of Coinbase, Brian, John McAfee, all of the big names I think many people follow. But then there are a couple of Twitter profiles and Twitter people that I think very interesting, but unfortunately don't have a lot of followers. One of them is Eric Wall from Sweden. He is a researcher and blockchain developer also, and he tweets very, very critical tweets towards many cryptocurrencies that aren't Bitcoin. So he is a Bitcoin maximalist, but he has very good criticism and he understands other coins. He really does his research and really comes with good explanations to why a coin is flawed. So that is a very good one. Then also, I mentioned John McAfee. He's funny. He makes predictions that are absolutely crazy. And from him, it's he just has so much influence, and so many people follow him. And I think it's important to just follow people who have a lot of influence, because, as I said, people will make some kind of decision based on tweets, although I think it's very bad, just like some people make decisions based on a video on YouTube, which is also very bad in my view, but people still do that. And so it's all about the big ones, but also small ones. And in the small area, I recommend Eric Wall. Check that guy out.
So what you're saying is when McAfee has the coin of the week, I should buy it or I shouldn't?
You should keep in mind. I mean, you should keep in mind what kind of coin it is, and just also try to see through. For example, he even released a website called the McAfee Effect. I think that is basically you can pay him to do all of this promotion. And you know, although it is promotion, people are still seeing it. People are absolutely seeing it. So I'm not telling you to do any decisions, but I'm telling you keep that in mind. And now, although he has stopped doing that because he received, I guess he received threats from the SEC or something, but he no longer does the coin of the week or coin of the week tweets. But for me, it's important to nonetheless, although I know it is promotion, although I know probably he's getting paid, it's important to still keep that in mind, that he has a lot of followers. And it's like, for example, when Kim Kardashian tweets about or does Instagram about Bitcoin, many people in the crypto industry are like, oh, who is Kim Kardashian? You know, what is silly news? But I think it's huge. It's huge.
So when she tweeted that, it was ridiculous for me because my two industries I'm in are crypto and poker. And she's like, I'm at a poker tournament. Here's a Bitcoin. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on in my life right now? But what was really funny to me is the way that those communities responded differently. In the crypto community, it was the top thread. Everyone's in. Kim Kardashian's in, guys. This is the future. Kim Kardashian's the future. And I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, you guys all hated Kim Kardashian until like 10 hours ago. What is this bullshit?
Right.
And then in the poker community, no one even mentioned it. It didn't even happen because no one cares about Kim Kardashian. I don't know. It's funny with crypto how people just like, if you're with me or you're against me. And if you're with me, I love you. Oh my God, right. Katy Perry has crypto claws. It's amazing. Like think about that. Is it really amazing that someone's fingernails are painted like something you like? Like, I mean, I don't know. It's funny the degree of bandwagoning that you see in cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. And Doug, I have to be honest with you. I really need to go to the bathroom. So if you have topics that we should discuss, let's take a break, 1 minute. Maybe you can entertain your audience. Or if we're rounding off, nonetheless, let's round off because I really have to go very, very soon.
Wait, I think your internet. All right. So take a quick breather, and then we'll finish up here when you get back for just like 5-10 minutes. We'll talk about a couple last things. All right, guys.
I'll be back.
No problem. All right, guys. So you might be wondering, Doug, where can what future podcasts do you have coming up? Oh, and we have a bunch of them coming up. We got many podcasts over the next few weeks, a bunch of different great guests I'm looking forward to. Generally speaking, we're going to have podcasts roughly twice a week. I'm going to say Tuesday and Thursday. So make sure to stop on by and join us. I'll post a schedule some point, probably on Twitter. Regardless, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. I like to have a nice wide array of guests here. Yeah, we like to shoot the shit. Basically, that's what we do. We bring good people on who are knowledgeable in their respective field, and we go from there. I also want to give a few shout outs here. Yes, that's confirmed. Didn't realize that the stream was going to have a pump and dump. There you have it. Bitstreamer, do you use DLive? No, I do not. Man, you need Joe Ingram to come in and fill the bathroom breaks. He could shout this entire lobby of people by the time Ivan gets back. That is certainly true. Let's talk a little bit about some of the prices, guys, because I don't know what else to fill this time with. I know it's been a little bit of a downturn. We had a bit of a rally, but Bitcoin down to 7.6, Ethereum at 415. We've definitely seen some dropping off here over the last day or two. I saw Bitclave went up massively, one of the shit coins I got a bunch of. And then I looked at it and I was like, shit, it's a fake price. Ended up being up only nothing. It was actually down. So that was cool. Some fake life. All right, Ivan, welcome back here.
Awesome being back.
Let's just finish up here with a couple last topics. So for some people that are interested in learning how to program, where can they find your it's a course? Can you explain a little bit more about exactly what you're offering?
Yeah. So it's a course where we teach you from zero. You don't need to be a programmer. We teach you how programming works, and then we teach you how to program on EOS, Ethereum, and NEM. So you can actually build decentralized applications on those three platforms. And this is a course that we launched this spring. And I mean, we received a lot of good response from our students. We have over 10,000 students in our academy. And it's all about the fact that we just saw a need in the market. There are not many blockchain developers. As I mentioned to you, when I worked at Ericsson now 4 years ago, those very skilled software developers don't know how to program on blockchain. They don't have that skill set. So we saw just an opportunity in the market that people who are interested in this, they know a lot about cryptocurrencies, know a lot about blockchain. We wanted to help them to actually get up to speed, and if they are interested, get positions and get jobs in the blockchain space. Because you see the amount of money flowing in, all these ICOs doing things, all of them need programmers. I mean, at the end of the day, they need programmers if they are not just, exit scams. This is something that we're very passionate about, and the course is, the video content I think is over 13 hours, and we basically take you from zero to a programmer on Ethereum, EOS, and NEM. And you can find it at coding.ivantek.com.
I think that this is like kind of an issue right now, because we have so many different places that developers can work, that there seems to be a shortage of high quality developers relative to how many projects that there are going on.
Absolutely. And when it comes to software development, it is, with blockchain, it's quite different also, because as we mentioned before, it's like doing hardware. It's not that you're building a website and it's live and you can quickly change something if you did something wrong and you can correct your mistakes. Blockchain is a whole new way of thinking and a whole new way of reasoning about software. So that is why I think there is a really good opportunity currently, if you are serious and you really want to learn and you really want to work implementing blockchain solutions, because that is the thing. If no one implements it, we will not go anywhere. So it's all about implementation, and that is why we are so passionate about that course. And I know I've talked about it so much on my channel also.
Wise words, man. Wise words. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Ivan, what do you have coming up that you're excited for? Where can people follow you? Just feel free to talk about anything you got coming up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So the coding course is already done. Then we have a new course about business and blockchain, basically how to budget a blockchain project, how to, for example, now with tokenomics, you understand that businesses actually need to hold tokens. And this is something that we explain to our clients at Stockholm Blockchain, that to actually use the software, you need to hold tokens, and we explain to them how that works. So a new course about the business aspect, because not everyone wants to be a developer, and that is at business.ivantek.com. Other than that, it's on YouTube each and every day, 8 a.m. Central European summertime, and we do the streams. We talk about technology, news. Also, Instagram, Ivan on Tech, if you want to have behind the scenes content when we are on different conferences and events. And I think that's it. That's it.
I mean, that's basically nothing, man. You got basically nothing going on over there. Well, I want to say thank you for taking an evening over there, I assume, to come joining us on the pod. It was great having you. Good to get some insight from someone with such a great technical expertise.
Awesome, Doug. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a pleasure. And thank you everyone who has watched. And, thank you for your interest, and thank you for inviting me. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. All right, that's going to do it here for our podcast with Ivan, but we're going to be back on Tuesday with Safadine from Twitter. Some of you guys might know this guy. He's a smart dude, and he's going to be joining us here on the podcast on Tuesday, I believe at 9 a.m. Pacific time once again. So if you want to come back and check the pod out, do so. Should be a good one. I want to thank everyone who joined here, either from Ivan's channel or from some of the regs of the pod. Good to see all of you guys. Definitely do appreciate that. And if you want to see more from me, well, I'm not doing any cryptocurrency stuff for the next few days, but I will be streaming some poker over on Twitch. I'm doing a bankroll challenge thing. If you're interested, you can probably find out about it on my poker channel. All right, that's going to be it, guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new, and I'll see you guys again soon. Peace.